Will the Seattle Seahawks, making heavy investments into the running back position in the draft the last few years, pay dividends in 2024? Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Good morning. We've got more Seattle Seahawks predictions to get through here. And since we did the quarterbacks last time, we will be lining up the running backs, or at least the runners this time. We know that you don't have to be a running back to pick up some rushing yards. You don't have to be a running back to get some rushing opportunities. But mostly, we're going to be talking about running back in this video. Obviously, again, it's really hard to project this stuff when you have a brand new offensive coordinator who has never worked in the NFL before. Everything I said about Gino Smith applies to our running backs as well, maybe not quite as significantly, because we do know that these guys are very talented, very capable. They are both players that went around the 50th or so pick of the draft in their respective years. So we know they have talent, and while we may not know exactly how they get utilized, it's very reasonable to assume that both of them are going to be productive. It would be strange if either guy was just unproductive. So, you've got Ken Walker, you've got Zach Charbonnet, that's the big one too. That's what is going to ultimately determine the success or failure of this backfield. But then you've also got a couple other factors, like Kenny McIntosh is your number 3 now after missing his rookie year completely. George Holani looms as a little bit of a sleeper as your 4th running back, a UDFA. And then you've got the non-running backs that will do some running as well, guys like Gino Smith. We know Gino Smith is going to do some running out of the pocket this year. We know that there's going to maybe even be a designed run or two for him at some point, because he does have that in his skill set. And you have the potential of jet sweeps, fly sweeps, reverses, end arounds. Never know. So, let's throw up some predictions here. Before I get into the numbers, though, I want to say thank you to everybody for watching. Please like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Click the bell if you want notifications. Consider becoming a member. Costs less than 10 cents a day, $2 a month. And with all that being said, let's start talking these running backs. So we're going to keep it really simple here, because we're going to have more to say when we do pass receivers in a day or two. So we're going to keep it to just the rushing stats and then build on it in a future video to get the full picture. So, obviously K9 is the lead back. He was very, very good last year, I think. His numbers were not as good as they were the previous year, but he was put in some rough situations. His offensive line did not do him any favors. I don't think his utilization did him as many favors as you would like. I still don't think we fully understand exactly how to utilize a player like a Ken Walker, or at least we didn't last year, and he still produced. Had some injuries as well, by the way. Got hurt. Missed a little bit of time. Played through some injuries. So we probably still haven't seen the best of Ken Walker. However, I'm a little bit wary of trusting this offensive line to be that much better at run blocking. So, put it all together. I've got Ken Walker III getting a grand total of 248 rushes, which might seem a little bit low if he plays the whole season, but I would expect him to miss at least a game or two. And I also expect us to be fairly balanced in how we use our running backs, because we know that Walker has missed some time in his first 2 years in the league. He hasn't played a full season yet, so I think we're going to try to even it out a little bit. It's not going to be a even split, but it is going to be a pretty significant lightening of the load. Yards, I decided to go with 1,167. That's just rushing yards, of course, by the way. So if you do the math on that one, yards per carry, 4.7, which would be good. That would be really good. It would not be elite. And I think that there are a fair number of people out there, a decent number of Seahawks fans and non-Seahawks fans out there that would consider Ken Walker to be an elite running back. I am a little hesitant to say that, simply because while I do think that he is very close to an elite running back, I don't know if the production of the elite running back will be there because the offensive line, I'm looking at it, I'm seeing 2 tackles that are mostly known for their pass protection. I'm seeing Laken Tomlinson, who I really do think is well past his best years. And I'm seeing a rookie, Christian Haynes, at the other side, right guard. And I like Oluwatimi. I do like Oluwatimi. I think he'll be good. We'll talk more about the offensive line in a future video. But I am not seeing the running back blocking that Walker is going to need to be like a 5 yard per carry average guy this year. I'm just not. So that's what I landed on. 11 touchdowns, by the way. Good, really good. No complaints if he gets in the end zone 11 times. And we're going to come out of this season feeling like he's a really good running back, maybe even a great running back, pushing in on elite. But the offensive line won't let him get up there. Okay, next guy will be Zack Charbonnet, and I think that he will get a lot fewer carries than Walker, of course, because Charbonnet to me is a better third down back than Walker. He's a better blocker and probably a better pass catcher. So I expect him to be on the field for third downs. I expect him to be on the field for passing situations. And Walker is going to get more carries because of that, even though Charbonnet might get a decent chunk of the snaps. I don't think the snaps are going to be that out of balance, but the carries will be. So I went with 101 carries for Charbonnet. And on those 101 carries, I gave him 461 rushing yards, which comes out to 4.56, which would, again, be really good. I don't think anybody would be upset about that. He doesn't have the breakaway ability of a Ken Walker. So Ken Walker is going to have a couple of those 50-yard runs, 60-yard runs that boost his yard per carry average, and Charbonnet isn't. So even though I do think that you're going to get more consistency from him probably, the yard per carry is still going to be in Walker's favor by a little bit. And then I went with a 3 touchdown total from Charbonnet. I know that Charbonnet is being looked at as a power back for a couple different reasons, but to me, he is not really that goal line back that some people picture, that some people desire on this team. To me, his real skill is his third down ability. And to me, he is more of a power back when he's able to build up momentum. So I don't think he's going to be some money in the bank goal line option the way some people are envisioning. I think he's going to just kind of get the touchdowns that are there. So I said 3. All right, next up we have Gino Smith. What he does with his legs will have an impact. Now, I don't think it'll be as big an impact as 2022. 2022, Gino ran the ball a lot, and it was pretty effective. It was an important part of the offense. 2023, it was a lot less, and there were a couple different reasons why I think that was, but I do kind of anticipate a similar result this year. I don't think Gino's going to be asked to run the ball a lot. I think there will be a lot of emphasis on getting the ball out quickly so he doesn't have to make those decisions under pressure. So I went with 41 carries with 201 yards. So a little bit more than last year, mostly because I have him playing the full season, and not really anything that's going to drastically tilt the season. But 200 rushing yards from your quarterback over 17 games, that's probably going to make some kind of a difference somewhere. And you do the math on that, you've got a 4.9 yard per carry average. So it's fine. Nothing extraordinary. Nothing too shocking there. For touchdowns, I had 1. I think he gets in the end zone once with his legs, and that'll be that. All right, after that, I think it's going to get a little bit thin. In our heads, when we're talking about running back stuff, it's very easy to imagine the team embracing this 3-headed or 4-headed monster. But in practice, I've said this before, I do think that teams want to get whoever they view as their best player on the field as much as possible. And while I like Kenny McIntosh, and I think a lot of people are excited about Kenny McIntosh, he's clearly not as good as Walker or Charbonnet as a player. He's just not. He's much slower. His skill set's very different. If anything, he's kind of a receiver running back hybrid. And while that certainly has its place in the NFL, it's not something that I think we're going to be leaning on that often because our receiver core is so good. So Kenny McIntosh, I gave 26 carries. I mean, that's okay. Nothing over the top there. But only 99 yards for 3.81 yards per carry. I don't think he has the breakaway speed to bust those long runs that are going to boost your yards per carry average. I think that he might be a guy who gets the ball on a lot of like 3rd and 20s where we're just running a give-up play. And typically on those give-up plays, I mean, this might be something more related to the previous Seahawks offenses, hopefully. We usually see them go for like no gain or even a loss. So I think that his season will be kind of another scratch as well, at least offensively, running the ball. No touchdowns for him, by the way, which, I mean, even if he does get involved in the offense a little bit more, I don't really view him as a power back, so I wouldn't think that he would suddenly vulture some goal line touchdowns. So seems reasonable to me. I'm just not expecting a ton. I think that he is a fun player. I just don't think there's going to be a lot of room for him to exert his cool skill set in this offense. Halani, I don't think is going to get to play that much. 4 carries for him for 21 yards, which is 5.25 yards per carry and no touchdowns. I don't really have a lot to say there. I don't think he'll play that much. He's not even going to be active in some games in all likelihood. And when he does get out there, it'll probably be because somebody's injured and he gets bumped up to the number 3. We're not going to want to put him in that situation as much as we possibly can. And then, of course, we have Eskridge, who I don't really want him to make the team, but I kind of feel like he's going to make the team. I'm reading the tea leaves. It seems like the team likes him enough to keep him around for one more year. So I went with 3 carries on jet sweeps, fly sweeps, end arounds, whatever. 21 yards, that's 7 yards per carry, no touchdowns. And that gets you your total here of just under 2,000 rushing yards, 15 touchdowns, 423 attempts. So, pretty fair. This would not make us one of the best rushing teams in the league in 2024, but we would be probably a little above average. We would be capable. We would be respectable. It would be a relatively winning formula, I think, as long as you're able to combine it with other good elements of a team. So, better than what we saw last year for the most part, which I do think that Walker and Charbonnet being a year older is going to help. I am a little bit concerned about the offensive line not really being that much better because of the limited way in which we attacked improving it. We are leaning on guys like Lake and Tomlinson and rookies and unknown second-year players to improve on what we had last year. But I am going to go ahead and go with it. And I'm going to go ahead and say that by the end of this year, we're going to have some very interesting debates on a Ken Walker extension. The wisdom of extending him after year 3 versus letting him play out year 4 versus not ever extending him at all. I think he'll have a good enough year behind an offensive line that is not going to make life easy for him to provoke that discussion, which would obviously be pretty good. And yeah, that's really all I got. There could be 1 or 2 other players that gets a carry at some point, like maybe Jake Bobo gets a carry. I don't know. That stuff's really hard to predict. At a certain point, you're just kind of throwing out random numbers more so than you are offering a real meaningful prediction. But I feel pretty good about this, right around 2,000 rushing yards in 17 games. And I do think that we'll come out of this season feeling like, hey, we did a good job spending draft capital on running backs the way we did because it's helping us win right now. All right, I will see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think down below. More videos coming soon. See you then.